This is a commissioned piece as part of my fellowship with Chicago dramatists. I'm a Tutterow Fellow, one of the Tutterow Fellows. And as part of that process, we got to take all kinds of courses. And one of them was a storytelling course. And one of the exercises had me working and fixated suddenly on blood, and how blood has factored into my life in various ways. And then that plus the idea of a one-person piece featuring a Black female performer, Black female actor, got in my head because in my time as a playwright, particularly here in Chicago, I've been so amazed and so excited by the breadth of talent held by Black women in particular. I admit that most of my stories feature a Black female character or more. And so seeing all that talent, I wanted to challenge myself and challenge an eventual performer to embody many voices in one piece and see what that would mean for the theatrical experience to see one Black female embody multiple voices. And then finally, the final inspiration was a conversation I had with my mother in passing once we were both grown, once I was a grown woman and could sort of have some real talk. And she talked about, Kimberly, we were not meant to survive. And that just really stuck with me. She was speaking not only of us as a race, but also people in my own family who faced very challenging situations. And to be standing there, mother to daughter, having that conversation, and even the small moments of survival that I experienced despite a very privileged background, that just stuck with me. So all of those things turned into a brew that eventually led to this draft. And I'll pause here, but I can circle back to where I am in terms of the stage of the piece, but I'll just stop there with what inspired it.
Yeah. Actually, I would love for you to keep on going.
No.
Not if it's painful, but it's helpful for me to know just like what draft this is, what type of feedback you're already getting, what types of conversations you're already having,
Yes.
the rigmarole.
Yes. So this is, I would consider my first, my draft 1.5. Okay. In the sense that I did a full draft that I felt pretty solid about, and then fortunately was able to send it to a few people for their close reading. And we had a conversation over email and phone. And then I was able to make some of the smaller changes, but have held some of the larger questions that came up in those conversations, and probably will try to tackle those after this Rivendell process.
Great. That's super helpful. When you think about what the sort of like earmarks were for the first draft and like the things you were really satisfied with and happy to get out and feel like you were expressing with clarity, what not this draft, but that first draft, what is that play about? Like what do you feel like you birthed in that moment, if that makes sense?
The question definitely makes sense.
Yeah. Just to see where we're coming from to where we're trying to go.
I was happy that I met my intention of writing a piece with multiple real characters that are revealed to be connected in certain ways, and a fifth presence. It was important to me that it not feel really grounded in real life, but had a certain surreal, liminal aspect to it. So I was happy that I dove into that part.
Yeah. So did them exist when you started, or it's something that sort of revealed itself over the course of the process? Or herself?
Yeah, it existed. They existed from the beginning. I knew that I wanted blood to have a voice. Yes.
Okay. So you felt like you had that clarity from the start, and you were just happy to be able to get that on the page and make sure that was part of that first draft.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that's great, and that's super helpful. And then speaking about your mother in this conversation about we weren't supposed to survive. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the inspiration for the narrative of the four women? And I mean, there are obviously like some sort of like pop cultural touchstones, right? Like like there are some like very recognizable voices, like Una is like, I wanted to just keep on calling her Camille, right? Like and there's some other things we recognize, but if you could just give a little bit of background just sort of on like, are you fabricating them? Are they snippets of people you know, or all of the above? Anything else?
Yeah, I would say all of the above. Uh, I'm not surprised that you kept wanting to call her Camille.
Yeah,
Um,
she's a
but I was
talkie.
also, say one more time.
I was just saying, I was just trying to, I don't feel like I've ever imagined the showdown between Camille and Bill, but you know, I hope
Yeah,
strawberries were a part of it.
yeah. I thought of her certainly, but I also thought of, I don't remember her name, but the woman who was associated with Epstein,
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey Epstein, and any of the enablers in
Mm-hmm.
the lives of men like that. As for Holly, I should be able to recite them. Holly, Danny, Cecile, Ona. All of them have aspects of people I know, and not all of the people that inspired them were Black women. I
Yeah.
want to underscore that because I think part of my mission was to bring the complexity of of Black women and their humanity and how there are certain human traits that all of us share. That was really important to me.
Okay, great. Um, that is helpful context for me. I think I'd like to, and I don't know how much you all touched on this in rehearsal. And Rashada, if you want to just like pop in, if like you've gotten, sometimes it's helpful, like as a director, once you've actually gotten clarity that the playwright has like, you know, articulated something that you're like, actually you do know that, or we have talked about that, or whatever. So that's, I think this is open to all four of us. But Kimberly, I'd love to just go through those questions that you emailed as a jumping off point, and like ask you some questions back to your questions, and then maybe we can get to something that feels like responses, recognizing that a 1.5 into a draft is very, very, very early, and like not wanting to overwork the dough, like knowing that there are things that you're already thinking through and engaging with, that don't need to be figured out right now, but the feedback that you're hungry for and you're wanting, we want to make sure we address all of that.
Yeah. Oh, and
So
Shariba, I just want to apologize that you weren't on the loop, but I'm sure that Gabby's going to walk through what the questions were, so you'll catch
yeah.
on.
I'm gonna read them literally word for word. So so the first headline, which I think is good, is the characters. So excuse me, how and to what extent do they feel fleshed out, real, and with clear motivations distinct? So my question back to that, I'll read that out for Shariba, who's taking notes. How and to what extent do they feel fleshed out, real, with clear motivations distinct? So there is a question between what just in my head became, after reading a little bit of your bio, like your poetic voice and like this they person, right? And in the interstitial space and the liminal space and the chairs and like all these sort of abstract touchstones, and what it felt like you were really trying to build, not just recognizable characters, but something that felt like real people. And so that's kind of where my question is I'd love to respond to that, but to what extent are these four women like living in a world of realism as much as they are real people who you want to be able to recognize, but like as characters they actually are closer to the liminal space than maybe they are right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know if you know, but there's like a computer on my ceiling that sends me the questions, which is why I'm just desperately looking for answers up there. No, I would say that um, I want the play to feel like we've snatched real people and somehow through, you know, something, they are in this liminal space. So they're not
Mm-hmm.
quite in their real life,
Mm-hmm.
because why else would an audience be there unless this was some strange other place?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I knew that I suspected that I wanted the audience to be, uh, for the characters to almost make the audience another character in their scene. So they're
Mm-hmm.
playing off the audience a bit. Um, so I'm not sure if that's answering your question, but I, I don't want it to feel like they're in real life and then them is somewhere else. I want them to
Yeah.
be in the same place.
Yeah.
I'm popping back in here just to say thank you to Gabby and to all of you for that amazing conversation.